I was telling Eric how I came in here one day and sat down, and Eric came in with all his hair cutting equipment, and I asked his dad, I said, "Who the is this?" And he goes, "I don't know who the he is." Can I swear?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Excuse me for
I'll bleep
swearing.
it out.
All right. And then another time I told a customer, "You better have a shot of vodka before he cuts your hair because the last guy lost an ear." He always loved the casino. And I would tell him, "When you win, why don't you leave?" And he said, "I didn't come here to leave after I won, I came to play." Quite the man he was. In closing comment, I miss him. He was a hell of a barber and a hell of an individual.
I remember Tony back from when I was 12. I'm 26 now, and I used to come up to his little hair place and get my hair cut all the time. And when I was coming up here, hey, Tony used to let us smoke. I remember when I put my cigarette out, and he said, "What are you doing?" I was like, "We can't smoke in buildings." He was like, "You can smoke in here." Hands me a lighter. I light my cigarette back up and start smoking while he cuts my hair. I remember when there were a couple times I came in here, he'd have a little half pint sitting on the table in the back and a pack of Marlboro Reds. He was a good man, good times. Never met a barber like Tony. He straight blades, everything, cut your face up. He's a good man, and is sorry to hear that he passed away.
Okay.
Not just to me, he
Yeah.
was nice to everybody.
So what about, remember the scissor thing you just
You
told me?
know, no, this is a. Well, I used to tell him, "Tony, how come you go with that scissor like this? Too much noise." He said, "I'm bullshit." He said, "I don't cut no hair, the noise of the scissor."
So the
He
scissors
said,
make all
the noise of the scissor, he think I'm cutting the hair. Oh, well, well, he was a nice guy.
Ben and Mike DeFazio
So what do you recall? What do you remember specifically coming into the shop?
coming in the shop. Now, I never seen Tony real mad. He was always happy-go-lucky.
What about the radio thing you said about the
And
music?
when I used to come in here, the TV be playing, and I'd tell him, "What's the matter?" An Italian shop, I don't know no damn music. He'd turn that off, turn that TV off, and put the old records on, like Gaylord or who else.
Well, he had a couple of bike stories.
Okay, so whichever one.
First one was his dad didn't want to have him have a bike. He wouldn't buy him a bike, and he saved secretly and ended up buying like a really cheap bike, but it was a rideable bike, and he just sort of had it one day, but it was like legit. He actually earned it and bought it, and your grandpa let him keep it.
Okay.
And he told me that later he found out your grandpa was afraid he would ride away and not come back.
Okay.
I don't know why.
He must have been very young. Was he young?
Yeah, he was
Yeah.
a kid.
Okay.
And he told me stories about fixing the hub. He had an old Bendix hub with like the line of brake shoes inside, and he would take it all apart, clean everything, put it all back together with some oil, and it would work. And he called the brake shoes washers. But they're actually like a gang of hardened steel brake shoes.
Okay.
It's a nightmare working, I'm telling you. I look at him in the book, I go, "Tony worked on that?" Wow.
So now, do you remember what type of bike it was? Was it a Schwinn or
It
anything?
was like one of those no-name bikes, didn't have a head badge, it was like no fenders, nothing. It was bare bones, it had just enough to ride. No chain guard, nothing. And then there was this kid in the neighborhood that had like everything. And this kid, his dad gave him like the best Schwinn bike, whatever that was back then. It had the tank with the horn and the light, all of that. And he's like, we played chicken with that guy. And he was so stupid. He didn't understand, we didn't care about our bikes since they were junk. And he had this fabulous bike. Like today, it would be like $1,000 Schwinn, or more, maybe $2,000.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So what happened then with that
So
bike?
they would play chicken with him. They deliberately just ran that bike right into it, clank, clank.
On purpose.
Yeah.
So did they mess up the bike then? Yeah.
Well, I don't know if they destroyed it. I don't remember that.
Yeah.
They said that they did some damage. I think that was sort of like kids that feel like they don't have as much as the other kids, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah, he would always tell, like when I walked in, he would say, "How's your family? What kind of bike are you working on?" And I would tell him, because he knew I was working on bikes.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool.
We used to talk about the old people when we were younger, when the haircuts were only about $3, $2 and a half. Well, I, I'm a religious person, and I believe that God gives you what we have to take. I am 100 years old on June the 12th. I was born on June the 12th, 1915, and this is the way the cookie crumbles. There's one thing I have to say about your dad. He always was so good. He had a smile. He was always said how nice everything was. He never had a bad word for anybody else, and that was me. So him and I were really in the same channel, and God bless him wherever he is, and I hope he's hearing what we have to say. Thank you.
Okay, my name's Bill Chandler. I live on Maxine Street. I was a customer of Tony DeLuca's for many years. I enjoyed coming here. I always knew that I would have a nice conversation with Tony about the past and about other things and what was going on. And one of my favorite memories is when Laura worked here for a time, she decided that she was going to class the place up and buy some new furniture and add some other things. I don't remember exactly the other things that she added. But she bought some gray chairs, and I'm looking at them right now, they're still here. And we raised hell about all the things that she added and how much we liked it beforehand and why did he let her add all these things and why was he letting her class up the place, and we had a good laugh over that. Another thing was that I remember about Tony was he wasn't much for school and for traditional education, I'll put it that way. Anyway, I can't remember where we went to middle school. I want to say it was Corville. I want to say it was Corville, but I don't really remember. But it was on the east side, and he had a classmate named Ann Cloutier, who I worked with later in the 1990s on the east side of Detroit at Barber Magnet Middle School. We were colleagues, and so that gave us an opportunity to talk about when he was in school. And since I was a teacher, he always called me the teacher, the school teacher, and he would always make remarks about his brief academic career. And whenever there was junk on the television, I would ask him to turn it. You know, could we watch something different besides Regis and Kathy Lee or these other girl shows that you like to watch? And he would turn it to something different. And sometimes there'd be Jeopardy reruns, and I would get the simplest question correct. And he would just think that I was a genius or something, and he would make school teacher cracks and say, "Oh yeah, we got a school teacher in the barber shop, so everyone has to act right or everyone has to behave or something like that." But it was really funny, and I enjoyed it, and that's those are some of the memories that I have with Tony.